All right, let's move on to the next topic. And it was in the same article, excuse me, with Fox Sports. And again, full disclaimer, guys, if the stream goes down, we're having internet issues. We'll just end the stream there. So if you see it cut off, that's what happened. I apologize in advance. Hopefully we could stick this out. So they listed another player that's set to be a free agent that is predicted to sign with the Green Bay Packers, and that is Quay Walker. All right. Quay Walker obviously was drafted by the Packers 4 years ago. Stack backer, athletic freak, physical freak. He was kind of a hybrid linebacker. If I remember correctly, leading up to the draft, when we took him in the first round, it was like the last 5 days leading up to the draft, all the buzz was Quay Walker skyrocketing up boards. He's skyrocketing up everybody's board. So that's that late draft buzz that I absolutely let one slip. I absolutely freaking hate the late draft buzz. Last second, this guy's a sin. It's like, what happened in the last 5 days to all of a sudden make this guy so much better? Or on the flip side, Ted McMillan, what in the last 2 weeks all of a sudden made this guy plummet down boards? It's because it's lying season. There's smoke screens. These GMs are going to send out these messages as if and leak out through the media. They're going to leak out through an insider. Hey, we really like this guy. Put that out there. They put that out there. Now all of a sudden other teams are going, is that BS or is that real? If it's real, let's move him up our board. Let's make sure we don't miss out on him. If somebody takes him one pick after us, we're going to be furious. I feel like that's kind of what happened with Quay Walker. But again, is Quay Walker a bad football player? I personally don't think he's a bad football player. I just don't think he's great. I honestly wouldn't consider him very good. I would say he's above average to good, in my opinion. Physical freak, elite measurables off the charts, right? But the read and recognition, the FBI, let me give you an example. I want to say it was against the Bears. I think it was against the Bears in a playoff game, or maybe it was the last meeting against the Bears, but it's probably the playoff game. There's a situation where he's playing a hook curl to the flat. And it's because, if I remember correctly, they were overloaded to one side. They were like in a trips or a Trey set. And then they had 3 to the right, whether it was the tight end or not. Maybe it was 2 tight ends. Regardless, we still refer to that as Trey, right? But the running back was to the left. And the running back, you could tell he's got hook curl flat responsibilities because the corner is going to bail on that side with the single receiver with the boundary X. The running back attacks the flat. Quay sees it as he starts the route. Quay's kind of holding in the hook curl. He's watching the back. He shuffles. And so it's like he's reading that fine. They dump it in the flat, and Quay takes off. I remember mentally thinking, but physically sitting there in my seat watching the game and going, oh, Quay's got this. Because Quay's an elite talent. And what happens? He shoots his shot, and I think it was Monunga, if I remember correctly. It may have been Swift or somebody else. They beat him to the corner and up the sideline. I'm going, okay, that's the point, kind of like the Keyshawn Nixon point that I reached where he refused to make the tackle at the goal line, then jumped on the pile being a tough guy and all that stuff. When Quay could not make that play in the flat, that's when I was like, okay, how can I continue to make excuses and try to justify that this guy is worth $15 million? He's just not. It's that simple. Will somebody pay him that? Absolutely. I think there's a team out there that's probably willing to pay that if free agency falls perfectly, right? So go get your money. This isn't anything personal against Quay, but it's like when that's supposed to be your superpower is your ability to run down, you being an elite athlete, it's your ability to run down elite athletes, and it doesn't happen. It's a hard buy for me, man. It really is. So when we roll down, here is what Fox Sports said about Quay Walker. Okay. They said, and he's listed as the 21st best free agent. So keep in mind, it's like 20 spots higher than our boy Calais Campbell. Okay. So they predicted Quay Walker would re-sign for the Packers at $10 million per year was the prediction. Here's what it says. Quay Walker, 25 years old, does a bit of everything for Green Bay. 4 straight 100 tackle seasons. Boys, that sounds great, don't it? That sounds absolutely awesome. Including 128 this past year. And he's active in the opposing backfield with 9 career sacks and 29 tackles for a loss. The Packers declined the 5th-year option, opting not to pay him $14.7 million in 2026, and he'll likely get about $10 million a year. So what they're saying here is the Packers were right by not hitting him with that 5th-year option of 14.7 because the true value is probably going to be around 10 million. And I think this is Goody's plan. Goody made them a low ball offer. Quay declined it. That happened, I think, back in October or November, if I remember correctly. And then he declines that. Now he's going to hit free agency. So if he comes back at $10 million a year, Goody has an opportunity to match that, right? Now, I know there's a portion of the fan base. This one felt closer to maybe 60% didn't want Quay at $10 million per, and maybe 40 to 45% wanted him back. So this is a lot closer to a kind of an even keel Packer fans want him back, right? But at $10 million a year, what else could you get at $10 million a year? Could you get a better linebacker? We're going to talk about some of the options. But he goes on to say Pro Football Focus doesn't think much of him, ranking him 76th amongst NFL linebackers with his pass coverage skills, bringing him down. Now, people say, PFF's full of crap. Go look at the passer rating when target on NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats. It's not just PFF. And you guys know I criticize PFF when I feel like PFF needs to be criticized. I'm not the grand poobah when you're allowed to criticize PFF. I've got my personal opinions just like everybody in the chat does. However, when you look at PFF says it's bad, and then you go to the NFL Pro data and you go, ooh, that looks bad too. The stop rate, the tackle for loss, you look at those numbers, you think, wow, those are great numbers. What's the tape showing? So again, I'm running it through the filter of what did PFF say? They said he's bad. Set that to the side. It's not everything. Watching the tape, boy, he's just so slow to shoot his shot. And then when he did shoot his shot, he couldn't handle that flat route up the sideline, flat to the sideline, almost like a some would call it a bench or a wheel route. It's like, well, he couldn't make that play. There's slow processing. You know, all these things coming into play is like, when I watch the tape, I'm not impressed. When I look at the NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats data, I'm not impressed. When I look at the PFF numbers, I'm not impressed. And even then, I'm not opposed to bringing him back. I just can't get myself to the 10 million mark. Now, will Goody do that? Possibly. And I'll tell you why. If there's one thing that Goody has shown in the past, and I see the super chats, guys, we'll get to them at the end of the segment. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. When you get to, trying to think of where I was, I seen that pop up and was like, oh crap, I missed one there. My bad. So, when you get to the point where it's, if I don't re-sign him, I'm admitting I made a mistake. That's where ego can get in the way. And that's where I respect people like John Schneider that just won a Super Bowl. That's where I respect people like Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman will tear it down and build it back just like that. There's no emotional tie to, well, that was my guy. I drafted him. And if I let him loose, people were going to think I failed. Newsflash, if we continue to get lapped by these teams with Super Bowls, like the Eagles, I think they won 2 here recently, right? The Chiefs have created a whole new dynasty. Just insert whatever name. We've seen what the Patriots did this whole time since we've won a Super Bowl. If we continue to get lapped by other GMs, why are we worried about losing our job or worried about our reputation if we decide not to bring somebody back we drafted in the first round? The only thing worse than making a bad draft pick is refusing to admit you made a bad draft pick. Everybody makes bad draft picks. Let me give you a recent example. Darnell Savage. I was excited about Darnell Savage. Athletic traits through the roof, right? I thought if they play him at safety and he's aggressive like he was in college, this could be a good pick. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I knew right away Savage was a bad pick. Hopefully you guys know I don't fan like that, right? I don't pretend to know more than NFL front office executives. But when you see how Darnell Savage underperformed year after year after year, and then they slapped him with a 5th-year option, I went, I'm done. Everybody liked to rake Joe Barry over the coals for how bad his defense was, right? Although the numbers were very similar to Hafley's recently, that's a story for a different day. But they raked Barry over the coals. What do you think Jeff Hafley could have done if he had Jonathan Owens and Darnell Savage as his safeties? Are we really sitting here saying that Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens would have had the same amount of success as all-pro Xavier McKinney? I don't mean to laugh, but dang. And young stud Evan Williams. And also, we had Keyshawn in the slot. Hafley had Bullard. You see what I'm saying? So, it's not as cut and dry. The point is, that's another example of us going, that's our guy. We're going to keep him. Recently, Devontae Wyatt, we slapped the 5th-year option on him. I like it. I kind of agree with it. I think, okay, that gets you 1 more year with him. He would hit the market and get a bunch of money, and you could kind of help build the floor in the defensive tackle room. But did it work out? I mean, that's what we're truly grading here, right? He had one more year left on his deal. Let me put it this way. If you could go back in a time machine last year and say, Packer fans, do you want to hit Devontae White with the fifth-year option, yes or no? I think the majority would say yes. But if they were to say, but here's the deal, that fifth-year option hits in 2026, and he's going to miss half of the season with injuries again. He's going to underperform, miss half the season, and then you're going to be on the hook for that fifth-year option as he's rehabbing that injury. Would you still take that deal? I think we would all probably say no, right? Because if he was a free agent right now, his market might be a little more limited because he's rehabbing an injury. And this is business side of football and sports. We have to acknowledge those shortcomings. If we're going to acknowledge all the shortcomings that everybody's had over the years, the Mike McCarthys, the Joe Barrys, right? The Dom Capers, the Aaron Rodgers. There was times he was catching a lot of criticism in Green Bay, right? Matt LaFleur, Rich Bisaccia, all these guys. We've got to hold the GM to the same standard, because when I look around the league, there's one thing that's just glaring to me is we're the youngest team in the league, and we continuously bring back these guys that we think are the answer. When I think we would all agree, we've looked up and go, they're not bad football players, but they're definitely not like Quay's not on the level of a Devin Lloyd. He's just not. He's not played that way, right? Well, guess what? Devin Lloyd's going for, they're saying possibly $15 million in free agency. I would rather go out and spend $15 million on a Devin Lloyd than I would Quay Walker at $10 million. That's just me personally. Now, $7 million, yeah, give me Quay at $7. I'm all about it. So let's move along here real quick. So again, they had him ranked 76. I explained some of those details. So the calculated market value for Quay Walker is $8.3 million. So 8.3, you're in that ballpark where I'd be okay with it. Okay. Because 8.3 at a 3 or a 4 year deal is going to be probably 5 or 6 against the cap year one. You can make a decision in year 2 and 3 on whether or not you want to go post June 1 and move on if it just fails, miserably. But here you see projected contract according to PFF, 3-year, $15 million per. Okay. Look at the PFF grades. 2023, 58. He was the 66th graded linebacker. 24, he went from a 58 down to a 57.2. So he got worse according to PFF. And then in 2025, he dropped all the way down to a 46.0. Well, how does he have so many tackles? Because those tackles are being made down the field where it's resulting in negative EPA in a bad way for the defense, if that makes sense. Positive EPA for the opposing team. So who would I rather have? Here's Devin Lloyd at the top of the list. Let's compare these guys. They're saying his market value is $15 million per. They got Devin Lloyd at $16 million per. And again, take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? So Devin Lloyd, $16 million per. Look at his PFF grades. 78, 76, 88. And boy, oh boy, when you go look at his passer rating when targeted, I think he was top 5 amongst all stack backers in passer rating when targeted. And again, that matters. We can't on one side of the fence get upset every time a tight end beats us for a crosser for 17 yards, right? When the stack backer hesitated and didn't close that window up, especially in our match coverage we played a lot of last year. You can't on one hand say we hate that, and then on the other hand say we're okay with bringing players back that have struggled. I mean, you look at the comparisons there, guys, and I know it's just PFF, but that's ugly. That is really, really ugly. So that's why I would prefer Devin Lloyd at $16 million over Quay. Now, do I think we're going to sign Devin Lloyd at $16 million? No, I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that happens. Let's move along. Devin Bush, 57, 79, 87 out of Cleveland. His market value is $12 million. Would I be okay with Devin Bush at $12 million? Heck yes, I would. Absolutely, I would. That's a no-brainer for me. So we've already identified 2 stack backers we would prefer over Quay Walker. Let's move on to a Wisconsin favorite here. Leo Chenal. All right. Leo Chenal, his PFF grades 84, 81, 75. He's 25 years old. Keep in mind, Devin Bush is 27 years old, and so is Devin Lloyd. But Leo Chenal, 25 years old, we've seen him peak at 84, and now 81, 75. Those grades smoke Quay Walker's grades, right? Guess what his market value is showing right now? I don't know if it'll hold true. Right now, 2 years, $6 million per year. So who would you rather have? Quay Walker at $8 million, if that holds true, or would you rather have Leo Chenal at $6 million? I'd rather have Leo Chenal. So we've got 3 stack backers we like better than Quay so far. Let's move along to the ageless wonder. We want to get a little bit older, right? A little more veteran presence. You want these mental mistakes to stop happening on defense. Put a Bobby Wagner right in the middle of it. Immediately, people will say he's too old, Clayton. Y'all were saying that in 2022, and then he came out in 2023 and had an 82.4 on 1,100 snaps. Then in 2024, he jumped to an 88.3 on 1,200 snaps, and then a 79.3 last year at 1,100 snaps. So again, 7th, 3rd, and 7th best linebacker. What's his value? $8.5 million. Who would you rather have, Quay or Bobby Wagner? For me, it's a freaking no-brainer. Quay Walker all day long. Another player on the list, Demario Davis. This dude is older. He's almost up there with Calais Campbell. But look at the grades, 89, 73, 80. He's 37 years old. They're saying 1 year, $8 million. Obviously, I would rather have a Bobby Wagner, Leo Chenal at $8 million. And then if you're willing to crack the $10 million mark, I'd go out and try to get a Devin Bush or a Devin Lloyd. That's just me personally. So that's how I see the stack backer position. That's who Fox Sports is projecting that the Packers sign. They're saying they think he will re-sign with the Packers at $10 million per. So I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments. If you're watching this back later, let us know. How do you feel about the stack backer position? How do you feel about Quay Walker? I'm going to hang out with the chat now, but you guys let us know in the comments when you're watching this back later how you feel about that whole situation. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon, do all that YouTube stuff for us. We greatly appreciate it.